In September of 1983, a cluster of small Iowa towns were paid a visit by Hollywood. The reason? Stephen King, of course. Well, sort of. And in July of 2022, we ventured here for a special event so that we could ultimately say, been there, shot that.
You got there.
I got corn.
We're children of it.
We are all children of this. $2.99.
We're in Whiting,
Iowa.
For what?
Children of the Corn was filmed here. Many of the downtown chase scenes, the infamous flagpole with the yellow base is here. And we're here to see a screening of Children of the Corn, sponsored by Myers House NC, which does on-set cinema tours and screenings of films in the places where they were shot. So they've got director Fritz Kiersch, director of the original Children of the Corn here, and we're gonna see a Q&A with him and then watch the movie in the town square.
We may even try and replicate a few scenes for you.
Yeah, and that's where this comes in handy. We're driving into the downtown of Whiting. See this flagpole here. The focus of many scenes in the climax of the film. And this is also a meeting spot for the bus tour. We couldn't get tickets to it because they sold out. And now we're gonna just kind of stalk them, I guess. Dames and I very quickly grew tired of attempting to eavesdrop on the VIP bus tour, which was being co-led by director Fritz Kiersch, who was back in Whiting, Iowa for the first time since shooting the film in 1983, and also by Children of the Corn historian John Sullivan, both of whom appear on the audio commentary and other special features for the Children of the Corn Blu-ray and UHD releases by Arrow Video. So we decided to use our time in Whiting wisely by recreating some of our favorite scenes from the film in the locations where they were shot.
Looks like a swinging place.
This looks like a swinging place.
Yeah, you might need more of these. When Bert and Vicky first enter the fictional town of Gatlin, Nebraska, they are indeed looking at downtown Whiting, Iowa. However, when they turn their head and look down this side street, they are in Salix, Iowa, which is about 15 minutes northwest. In fact, all filming locations that we will visit in this video are easily drivable and can be reached within about 15 to 20 minutes from the center of Whiting. Back in Whiting, there is a shot of the first Children of the Corn to see Bert and Vicky as they enter Gatlin. They are hiding next to a garage that Dames and I spent quite a good deal of time trying to hunt down, only to find out from the bartender at local watering hole Buddy's Tavern that it is no longer standing. This was later confirmed by Children of the Corn historian John Sullivan during our walking tour of Whiting film locations.
But it was actually right down there where that flag is, and they just tore it down this year at the beginning of the year because half of it was gone and it was getting ready to fall towards the houses down there, and they didn't want that, so they just went ahead and demolished it.
Town hall, grocery store, Henson's Cafe.
So the building they pull up to here is no longer a functioning diner, but it is interesting to note that there still is an old malt sign hanging up there. And then looking further down Whittier Street here, which is the main drag in Whiting, you will notice that the post office is still located in the same place, and it does still have that blue mailbox.
Hey, wait a minute, come back here!
Hey James, look what I just stole from your car. Better come get me.
What are you gonna do if you catch him?
What are you going to do when you
Ask
catch
him
me?
to Find help. What else?
Just cut off that way.
Okay. Damn it! Where'd they go? We'd be better off in a bigger town anyway. The size of Seattle.
Yeah.
Me and Sarah were playing in our old house. We played there lots. Malachi said it was forbidden. but I think that was because nobody...
Heading north out of Whiting via County Highway K64, you can reach nearby Hornick, Iowa, and this is the location of not just one of the most iconic sites in this film, but probably in all of horror film history, the house where Sarah and Joby live. At the present time, much of Hornick's roads are undergoing major construction and in the process of being repaved. This made for quite the chore to actually reach the house, but it is certainly still manageable if you don't mind a little wear and tear on your vehicle. When we reached the house, we were awestruck to find that the foundation is being repaired, so the house is both literally and figuratively jacked up and in a fragile state. However, the house still does retain many of its iconic features, like the wraparound porch, and is quite frankly an absolute must if you're planning a visit of Children of the Corn's filming locations. Important to note also is that the interior scenes of the house were not actually filmed here, and also that the exterior cellar door seen in the film never actually existed. It was constructed solely for the purposes of filming the movie. We returned to the house 2 weeks later to gather this additional footage and noted how much more progress has been made since our last visit. The piles of dirt surrounding the house are now much taller, making it even more difficult to get a good look at the house from its original filming angles than it had been in our prior visit. But with a little help from a drone, we gathered some nice footage and hope you enjoy these additional and entirely unique views of the property, including the opportunity to view it from overhead during the restoration process. Also, we couldn't resist the opportunity to lampoon the most cinematic shot in the entire film. While we're in Hornick, I do want to make one additional pit stop for you, and that is for the infamous cafe scene. So we're going to actually backtrack towards the beginning of the movie in which the adults are attacked by the children, and we are going to show you where that location is now today. Okay, very funny guys. This is just an empty lot. Well, unfortunately, that is all that now remains of the one-time active small-town diner. It burned down in a fire in late 2008. If you would like to see what it looked like prior to that, head over to childrenofthecornmovie.com and check out John Sullivan's photos from his visit in 2007. These photos are also included in the Arrow Blu-ray special features. You can still tell, however, that this lot is exactly where the diner was, as the building across the street from it looks much the same as it did in 1983. This building is of course quite visible several times during the diner scene, whenever the door is open, and also when Isaac peers through the window in delight during the mass murder of Gatlin's adult population. Well, that's all for our trip to Hornick, so now let's get back to Whiting so we can recreate the famous chase scene.
I want my corn!
This isn't a game, understand? Now, back off.
You can do it.
Outlander! Get off! Get him! Come on, you quit!
As you can see from our 2022 footage from this shot, the Nissen hut still remains, but the building next to it is no longer there. If you were to backtrack a little bit here and go to the right, you would actually wind up at Buddy's Tavern, which is a pretty nice small town bar with cheap drinks and a wide selection to choose from. The waitstaff was very helpful, and so if you're there for an extended period of time, like we were, and it's a hot day, I do recommend stopping in there for a cold one. As I had mentioned in the introduction to the video, we were there in Whiting for a very special event, and that is a screening of Children of the Corn with director Fritz Kiersch on hand. He did a Q&A after the screening, and we'd be crazy not to show you some of that as bonus footage here in this episode of Been There Shot That. But be sure to check out the Been There Shot That extra Children of the Corn Q&A with Fritz Kiersch. We have a much longer cut with many more of the questions that were asked and answered by Fritz himself, and be sure to check out that link in the comments.
This movie was filmed in just 1 month. It was filmed in September of '83 through October of '83, and that's all it took. There was a lot of extras in the movie, which some are here. Let's have the extras come up here. The movie was almost, it was filmed in '83, so it's almost filmed 40 years ago. Does it feel like 40 years ago? No. We were babies. I just want to say thank you. Thank you so much for being here. Kenny, thank you so much for letting me be here. And I'll give it back to you. And I think we've got one more person that we're going to bring in on this.
Yeah. Director Fritz, here. Let's give it up. I think they want to get a quick picture with you, you don't mind. Yeah. So what we're going to do, you guys, we're going to watch the film, and anyone who wants to stick around, Fritz is going to do kind of an in-depth Q&A, so be thinking about anything you want to ask him. But without further ado, I'm going to let this man right here do an introduction to the film, and then we're going to watch Children of the Corn.
I was really proud of this as my first film. And I went, when I lived in Venice, California, to a theater that was showing the film, and there's the marquee, Children of the Corn. That's me, that's it, I'm it, it's really cool. And it was in the area where there were a lot of second-run movie houses where they would run the film for $1.50 or whatever, and it catered to the retired community of Santa Monica at the time. So I excitedly stood there and I'm thinking, oh, this is really cool. And a woman just walked out, retired woman, came from the theater. And I said, hey, what do you think of this? And she said, oh, it's just awful. It's just awful. These kids with their knives, I don't, and she went on and I thought, oh boy, there goes my career. I'm down the drain. But it made me realize how cool it is to make a film and how to come back here and to see all the things that we just more or less, which we will talk about after we see the film, made up on the day. There was a lot of planning into the film, but we made up a lot of things that made the film work and particularly fit into the community to make it look the way it looks. So I really do hope you enjoy it. I hope you see things in it that you will ask questions about, and we can better define them, but you see things that are familiar, and you see some of our stars that are in it that are here with us tonight, and you just have a good time. I think it's cool. So eat popcorn, let's laugh, and let's giggle at the silly lines that used to be scary. So it'll be cool. So I hope you all enjoy it. Thank you for being here.
Now, there wasn't an ideal time to tell you this earlier in the video, but the hotel used in the establishing shot seen immediately post-credits is still standing and is located just off I-29 in Sergeant Bluff, Iowa. This has changed hands many times over the years and is currently a roadway inn.
We have your woman! She still lives! Outlander, maybe you don't hear so well.
Thank you. I enjoy watching, listening to your responses, your laughter at some of the stupid lines in the movie. She's out cold. I mean, who came up with that? I didn't do it. But in making a film like this, you just hurry and you're not thinking, and you say just to the actor, say this, not thinking that that's what we just saw happen. So it becomes redundant and funny and all those kind of things. But I'd really like to answer any questions you have about what we did, our process, how we made it, how we came here, anything you can think of.
Do you remember if that was really John Franklin's voice when he screams as he's burning on the cross?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's his scream?
Yeah, that's really him. The voices that we replaced, this is interesting, I mentioned to Kenny while we're watching the film. The voices we replaced were some of the driving sequence dialogue because it didn't sound good enough for the film, so we had to go into a studio and synchronize the voice with a new re-recording by Peter Horton or Linda Hamilton. And then in a couple of other places. But the voices of the children are done by a group of what they're called loopers. They come into the studio, they're actors, mostly comedians, and they watch the film as we've watched it with microphones set up here, and they choose characters on the screen and they become that character and they do a voice for that character. So you record about 8 people talking, and then you blend that into the background. And if you remember in the cornfield with the kids, to give a sense of society to this group, this culture, I thought it would be really cool that we would have babies, older children, adolescents. So it turned out in the group was Bart Simpson, the voice of Bart Simpson, and she did all the baby voices, all the crying and everything in the film. This was before she had Bart Simpson.
Look, I don't want to get too romantic on you, because after all, we're talking about a horror film, right? But the fact remains that it's difficult to visit these real-world locations from a film you grew up watching in childhood without getting a little bit wistful. I think this is especially true of Whiting and the surrounding towns because they, unlike many urban areas where other films were made, have remained so recognizable in terms of the landscape and infrastructure. And the fond memories that the locals have when you mention the making of the film would never lead you to believe that this was merely just some horror film. So, if you ever find yourself driving into this tiny little hamlet in western Iowa, be careful not to drink the coffee, and most certainly be on the lookout for children. You'll want to avoid them at all costs. Don't say we didn't warn you.
When in Whiting, be sure to stop by Kirby's Fine Meats and Produce. This has been around apparently for quite some time. This is where we purchased all of the corn used in this video, so you can be sure to get your corn needs fulfilled here. Apparently the producer Terrence Kirby was such a fan of the building that he allowed it to be used in the background of some shots without changing the name of the business.
Been There, Shot That is a Lock 22 production, and we would love for you to subscribe.